Welcome to the Raw Food Health Empowerment Show. um, Today we're talking about how to get over salt addiction. And Ma, have you ever had a salt addiction?
Never. Only sugar addiction, but never salt.
Never into chips or anything salty?
No, no, I was never a chip girl, no.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I I was very much into salt. I never had a sugar addiction, but definitely a salt addiction. And I have overcome that twice, at least twice. And the way I overcame it, specifically in terms of like how to get rid of it personally, was to do what I read. One of Dr. Perlmutter's books, I believe it was, who said he was specifically talking about getting over like wheat addiction. And salt a lot of times is coming from processed foods, it's coming from breads, it's also coming from chicken consumption because they put a lot of salt in chicken. um, but he had recommended like to get over wheat, like bread addiction, to do a 24-hour water fast. And I did that, and it took away my salt craving. Another thing is something I'm going to talk about later, but just like finding alternatives so you don't have to go crazy with salt. Like there's other alternatives. I was watching this interview, this guy. So there's this product called green salt made from I don't want to say the wrong thing, but some kind of plant that's grown near the shoreline. So it's not a
Mhm.
seaweed, but it's like grown near water.
Yeah.
Um, and this guy, he's like, he's on the team for this company, Green Salt, and he talked about his own personal experience dealing with hypertension. And when he mentioned that, of course, my ears perked up because I know there's a lot of folks in our community that is dealing with hypertension, right?
Right. Hmm.
Um, and he said he was able to get rid of his hypertension by doing a few things. So I'm putting some up on the screen. This one actually, let me leave this one to last because that one is a big one. But removing canned foods. Um,
Yes.
he did that because apparently canned foods have a lot of sodium. And I think in general, just eliminating processed foods from your
I
diet.
think, yeah, I think that they use the salt to cure the canned food. It's a part of curing it.
Mm, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense. He
Hmm.
also did more cardio. So I know that is one of the things that I noticed in our community. I don't think we're meeting the minimum guidelines, which is 150 minutes of aerobic activity. You just
I
took
know
a
I'm not.
deep breath right now because you're like, oh, that's me.
Alvin 1, Alvin, Salmon,
Sorry
or two
about that.
others.
Sorry.
And so you're getting a group call.
No, sorry, sorry.
um, so what were you gonna say about the cardio?
Um, no, I said that this, I wasn't going to say anything about the cardio as yet, but I was saying that because they use salt. No, yeah, yeah, sorry. Yes, I did. I said, as such as the cardio exercise, I'm very guilty on that one. I don't do much of it, but I do a lot of stepping, and I know stepping help your heart also. So
What do you mean step in?
I stairway, climb steps every day.
Uh,
And I use it as an exercise, especially coming from the basement. For anybody out there who have basements, instead of walk up the step, you run up the step. Just be
yeah.
careful running up because you don't want to fall. But I can still run up the steps, so I take advantage of it.
So you think cumulatively throughout the week you're doing that for 150 minutes per
Yes, I
week?
tell you something. That video that I watched yesterday, I know I'm doing the right stuff after
Which
listening to
video?
with the two doctors that you sent me yesterday. I'm trying to remember the name. It has to do with breast cancer. They were talking
Uh,
about the exercise, right? But I know I'm doing the right stuff. I never feel guilty that I don't exercise because I know what I go through in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, for those who don't know, since they weren't on our private chat, the Slave Food Project, which is hosted by Dr. Columbus Baptiste and Dr. Eric Walsh. They
Yes.
have a YouTube channel called the Slave Food Project, and they had a live stream yesterday on breast cancer, and I took notes too personally, to be honest, because there was a lot of things that resonated with me that I was like, oh, I need to pay attention to this, because a lot of times for me, I'm hearing the same information all the time. Eat clean, eat your fruits and veggies, exercise. Like, I know that already. And of course, releasing the stress, but the stress is, there's so many facets to the stress. You know what I'm saying? It's so deep, which is why this is on the list, but I left it till last because so much could be discussed there. It's so deep, it's so varied, it's so diverse, it's so complex. And we more has to, we can't just say drop the stress. It's like, but how? Like how? We still have to deal with people. I find it's people who stress me. People stress me, and of course my own fears stress me. And fears are really false evidence appearing real. And I know this intellectually, but it's like, some certain things get triggered by the false evidence. It's not real. We know it's not real, but we get triggered into the fear response, and that, increases cortisol. So yeah, it was a really great, fascinating talk. I don't have the link because I didn't really expect for us to talk about it today, but if folks want to look it up, they could just search it on YouTube, Slave Food Project.
Right. It was very nice. Very, very nice. I mean, I enjoyed just listening to them. I listened from the beginning to the end. Yes.
So the other thing, this guy, his name is Chris Lynn, who talked about how he reversed his hypertension. Other than removing canned foods and doing cardio, he completely cut sodium out. So just like I was talking about water fasting, he did a complete fast of all sodium. So, and I think this could be beneficial as a reset to the palate.
Maybe I'm wrong, Sam. Maybe I'm wrong, but cutting sodium completely out of your diet, where does that leave one? Because you need salt. You need some kind of salt.
It's not
in your diet.
Yeah, it's not forever, because he is eating salt. He's eating his green salt now, which is salty. It's not salt, but it's like it has a salty flavor. So he's consuming sodium now. But remember, he had hypertension, and so these are what he did that where he's no longer hypertensive.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, to me, it's like a fast. Like in our community, even you were talking about, every year the kids do a washout, but it's not something you do year round. It's just like a reset. Because what happens with the salt, why we even get addicted, is it induces the dopamine response. Dopamine is that hormone, that pleasure hormone, like, ooh, the thrill and the excitement. And even the more salt you have, it dampens down a little bit, so you're not as excited. So you need to add more salt to get to that thrill level,
Right. Yeah.
And that's where the addiction, it gets worse and worse and worse, kind of like when, I was into the sea snacks, those little roasted seaweeds, because it's so good. I mean, it has olive oil and salt, and it's already salted, but it's already salty flavor, but it has salt. And I started off with 1 pack. And it says it on the package. They're not even trying to trick you. It says strangely addictive or something addictive, it says on there. I started off with 1 pack. Before you know it, I was down in a whole 6-pack at one time. Yes. Then I graduated to 12 at one time. I mean, it was because it was just like, this is so pleasurable. I want more. I want more. I want more. And then justifications. seaweed is good for the thyroid, so I'm actually helping my thyroid. You know,
But salt
it's
is
like,
bad for the blood pressure.
and for me, honestly, and this is where when you talk to somebody who has an addiction, like for me, I didn't have blood pressure issues, and actually I've been going to the doctor recently for my neck and, and my foot, the podiatrist. Every time I go, they do my blood pressure. And I remember the first lady, when I went for my neck, she was like, "Is this normal?" And I don't even know the numbers at this point. I've forgotten. But I'm like, yeah, healthy blood pressure is normal for me, right? It's fine, right? And she's like, yeah, it's good. But she was questioning that. I don't know if she expected, because of how I present, she expected something different. I don't know. But
Next time you get the reading, though, it's good to get the reading. Write it down.
it was like 106 over something. I don't know.
It's normal.
Yeah, it was just I've never had an issue with a blood pressure reading, right? I'm pretty sure I've had blood pressure issues with certain types of exercise, which I think I talked about on the show before. But whenever I show up at the doctor and get a reading, I never get, so because I didn't have that problem. The seaweed snacks is nothing I would speak out against necessarily, except for the oil, because oil can be inflammatory. Even though it's extra virgin olive oil, it's roasted. And so even if it's raw oils, it could be inflammatory, but I don't have, I didn't feel like I had an inflammatory issue, I didn't have rheumatoid arthritis, or anything like that. So I didn't feel like I had an issue. But when I realized the gluttony of what I was doing, and the fact that the snacks had so much plastic, the plastic was bothering me. And I just felt like I was ODing, because the serving size, each plastic I have to open is a serving size, and how I graduate, I was like, oh, this is getting worse and worse. So I did basically what this guy did. I didn't cut out all salt, I just cut out that snack. I just stopped buying it. I stopped buying it, and to me, once I make a decision, I have many reasons why I make a decision. It's only one, but my brain always finds numerous reasons, and I stayed off of it. And I had it recently, and it doesn't take, like, I don't enjoy it like I used to. So something happened. That's why I always say when we talk about food addictions, because there was a time I was addicted to cereals, even and I said, if you want cereals, go for the healthy ones. And I did that, and I was hooked on those for a long time, because all this stuff, I basically grew up on things from Costco. And so when I would hear packaging, the crinkle of the what you eating? I'm already salivating. I'm like those mice in the testing. So I totally get food addiction. It does something to you. But then you go through these stages, at least I did, where it's like, I don't want to be controlled by food. My digestive system doesn't like when I do more than it can take, which I've done, and it wasn't comfortable. But because the brain is pleasure seeking, and I know I can expect pleasure from this thing, you just go back,
Yes.
for the pleasure. So it's the thing. So I like this thing where he cut all sodium out. You just make the decision and just nix it, And then the other thing that he mentioned was dropping the stress. He mentioned that he had anxiety. And I'm like, girl, I understand. I understand. And this
sometimes you're anxious for nothing, right? You're anxious for nothing sometimes.
Well,
it's nothing.
That's the fear. And it's like, it's nothing intellect, like this logically. Other people can see that, but when you're in it, it doesn't feel like nothing. You know what I'm saying?
can I just stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
There's a scripture that every time I get anxious, because I'm under the human condition like anybody else. There's nothing different about me. And every time I remember this scripture, I always repeat it: be anxious for nothing, but in everything, in prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to the Lord. So that's when I go into a little prayer. And you don't have to go into anything lengthy and long, because God knows what you're anxious about. But he tell you, be anxious for nothing, which is anxiety. You're anxious for nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's nothing. Because when you get over it, you realize, what was I stressing myself over? You get what I'm saying?
That was the main thing that stood out to me, because of course, I incorporate stress in my programs primarily because stress affects weight loss, and specifically fat around the midsection. Stress is a huge contributor to this. I personally so I try to keep stress down, but I'm not like, fat loss is not a huge motivator for me right now. But when I watched the interview that you were talking about, not the interview, but the presentation from those two doctors at the Slave Food Project, talking about the link between trauma and stress with breast cancer,
Yes.
and I'm like, ooh, and then Eric Walsh, he was specifically talking. Let me go to my notes, because I wrote down the notes, and I wanna find what it was that I wrote down, but there was something he said that it just had me like, ooh, wait a minute. Here it is. Stress is a big risk. Negative emotions. So he was talking about negative emotions, right? It's a big risk factor for breast cancer. And the negative emotions part is what got me. Because negative emotions is really like how you interpret what's happening. And that's the difference between who I was before the pandemic and who I am now, right? Before the pandemic, I was a lot more optimistic, glass half full. I mean, I tend to be, but I had way more optimism about everything, what could go wrong, and even if it does, I can handle it. The Lord got me, God got me, because that was the whole thing when I left New York and dropped in Bay Area without any job, any plan, no housing, nothing. God got me, no fear, God got me. Same thing, we went to Chicago to open a business. We didn't have a place to go. No friends, no connections there. God got us. We good, But after you do that enough times, and then you're hit with something like the pandemic, things are shut down. And I'm a millennial, right? So I graduated college during the recession of 2000, what was it? 8. 2008. And it just seems like we have never quite fully recovered back to the great days of the 90s and, when everything was big, 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 right?
Right.
So from my perspective, there's a lot of things that came out, a lot of learnings, and like you can know something, but when it gets reflected back to you by the community in such a large scale, it hits you different, right? So like before, for example, we had the store and we were invited to talk at this school it's an ombudsman, right? Where these young people did not finish high school, but they have the opportunity to get their GED. So they're in this school. And we're talking about raw foods and nutrition. And I remember this young woman who's in the school was like, y'all have no idea. Like, look at our neighborhood. There's no groceries here. Where would we get those things? And I'm like, it has to be there. It has to. I'll show you. And I said in my mind, I'm going to come back. I'm going to scope out this neighborhood. I'm going to find the food because it's here. You just got to look for it. And then the pandemic hit, right? And we're hearing about food insecurity, food deserts, food swamps, redlining. Terms we've heard before, but something hit different during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, gosh, my community is being set up for the same disease I'm trying to eradicate.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm sitting in front of them telling them, you could do this. But all of these factors are working against them. My mind wasn't like that before the pandemic. But 2020 hit, and it hit me really hard. So I was in a lot of grief. I was crying for my community a lot, like a lot. And at the same time, I did 2 launches that year. I was talking to 500 new people coming in, just learning about me, about this thing. And it was rough. It was really rough for me emotionally. I showed up, I gave the information like I always do. But emotionally, it hurt me. And that whole time was very depleting to my energy. So this is where the mild depression came in. Fatigue, I was already struggling after, the store closing and everything. Because as you get older, transitions you used to do when you were younger, it takes a lot more energy when you get older.
Right. It does.
So when
you're singing to the choir.
Yeah, I know you know, Ma. I know you know. So it's like I'm a different person than who I was before.
Right.
And you got to think Raw Food Meal Planner has been around now for 9 years or something? According to my LinkedIn. Yeah, it's 9 years.
Right.
So, or 8, something like that, 8 or 9. And I'm different.
But
I'm seeing things different.
Other than that, Sam, you're maturing and things are materializing in front of you. You're seeing things that you never seen before. You know what I'm saying? It's coming to you now. It's things are unfolding. So with the situation that's going on today, I can understand why I feel it because I'm comparing it to what was and what is now. I've never seen this time before. I'm only facing this now for the first time in my life. Because you asked me before if I went through a recession. I never paid any attention to recession before. It never affected me in this way. I'm not going to say it affected me now because I'm retired. I don't have to wait on a customer to come in to pay me. Mm-hmm. I'm retired. Thank God. But I feel it for the generation now who have to go through it. And they go through it harder than when we were their ages. So I understand what's going on. I mean, not that I understand it fully, but I see what's going on.
And I think even beyond the money piece is the emotional part of just existing in this time. So I remember, did I share the link with you? I don't know if I shared it with you. And maybe I could play it here. I don't know if I could play, but Tamala Mann's husband, I can't remember his first name, but he was on Tamron Hall's show talking about depression. And I remember back in the day when I paid for cable, I remember they had a reality show and I was watching this guy. He's a comedian. He brings the jokes. He always has a smile on his face. And this man was on TV talking about dealing with depression, and how he was able to get some reprieve was just going into his office and sleeping. And I have this book right here. I'm going to tell everybody to get this book. This book right here. This is what I'm going to spend the rest of the day cuddling up with.
Yeah.
This woman went to seminary.
Mm-hmm.
And in seminary, she talks about this. She was learning a lot about our racial history, things that Black people went through in this country. And she would be in the library with those books on her and just sleeping. It's heavy. Our history is so heavy, and our present. When you pay attention,
though, the heaviness of our history sometimes can cause depression too.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
This is what we're
Because
facing right now.
huh?
This is what we're facing right now. I feel
Exactly.
collectively.
Because if you watch any of these late movies about our Black history, it can put you into a depression. You have to have a strong frame of mind. It's not everybody can sit and watch stuff like that. And now I realize that I'm not that strong. Because sometimes I have to turn it off because I start crying. What is that? You're getting depressed. You're getting very down. It's not uplifting. Our history is not uplifting. Well, right now, with what's going on in history now with Black people, the one that is more, and that's a more positive, the one that fight their way, fight like the devil fight, their way to reach somewhere in life, we can pull some strength from them. And they go through a lot. And if they tell you what they go through, we look at somebody like Oprah Winfrey. She fight to get where she
Her
is.
story is sad. Like, I just can't. I wouldn't read a book about it because while as somebody who loves to interview, and I feel like that's a strength of mine because I've always been inquisitive, her career journey is great. Her her actual personal journey, like, it's just, that is too heavy for me. Because
She had a baby at 14.
Yeah.
She had a baby at 14 years old. It's not a decision of hers. She was raped. And for most of those Black successful women today who you say doing so very well, we have to lift our cap to them. They went through a hard time in life, They went through a lot.
Which is, I appreciated the Slave Food Project. They said, talking about stress and those negative emotions, because negative emotions for me shows up as anger, as resentment, frustration, and he had recommended on the show therapy, and I'm like, this is it, because and they're both very grounded in the Christian ministry, right?
They're very spiritual, yeah.
Especially Dr. Eric Walsh. He always brings up scripture, and between him, I think it's David Mann. I think that's his name, David Mann, Tamala Mann's husband. Even because Tamron Hall asked David Mann, well, why didn't you just pray about it? He's like, I did pray about it. I did. It wasn't enough, right? It wasn't enough. Prayer and spirituality has its place. When I hit that low point in 2020, it was Agape Spiritual Center that helped to bring me back to myself. Because I was
what helped you though,
drowning in grief.
Yes. But you know what helps someone to bring themselves back? Faith. Like, you have to have faith in yourself and in God. Not just put it in God alone, but you have to have faith in yourself to know that, yes, God, I can do this by you who give me the strength. And once you walk out there with that strength, you can do it, But yes, group meetings are very good. When you find, therapy is good. You have a set of people that you have, you sit down with, and you're all facing almost the same issues in life. That's good.
Yes.
You get comfort from things like that.
Yeah, because I think even with my stress relief tactics, and I've talked about this, I have a tool bag of things. I love to sing, but sometimes I'm too tired to sing. And singing actually brings me pleasure, like the feeling in my body. I get bliss from it. But sometimes I'm too tired to sing. And so to even start, I don't want to do it. I love to dance. Sometimes I'm too tired to stand.
You get that from me. I love to dance.
Right? So that's why you have a tool bag. I have a tool bag of things. If I'm too tired to do those things, maybe I go to the Chopra Center and just lay down for sound healing. That helps me. Or sit for meditation. Or stand up and do Qigong. It depends on my mood and how I'm feeling. You need to have all of the things. Spirituality is great. We need that. And I have that. But that don't mean that did not save me from fatigue and depression. It helped to bring me out.
You have to help yourself. You have to use the tools that God gave you and help yourself. Yeah.
Yes, the agape helped me in 2020 to bring me back to myself. Um, at the same time, sometimes it's not like we're trying to balance all the things. So like I remember when I engaged with agape, and I got the help. I devoted time because I knew I wasn't feeling good. I devoted time to this. I cleared everything else off. Now, when you're in the real world where you have the stuff that you're doing to financially provide for yourself, responsibilities at home and different things, you need something that could fit within that doesn't take up that much time. The amount of time I devoted then it's not a sustainable thing. That's a one time, but it's not sustainable for the everyday. So I have practices in place to tap in regularly, right? But it's not the same like as if I was living on a mountain with monks. You know, if I was living in that environment, I would never get, I'm assuming, stressed and angry like I do sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, because it's so peaceful. You're peaceful all the time. Who's there to irritate your nerves? There's nobody. Everybody's peacefully doing their thing peacefully because everybody's there for peace. But we're in the real world. Not everybody's really there for peace and upliftment. And, not everybody's operating out of love. And,
If you're in the mountains, you say with the monks,
yes.
can I tell you what would not bring you peace?
What?
If you see some insect crawling up on you.
Well, it's a mountains with no insects, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, all right. Let me know when you find one.
Well, actually, in Poland, there is a place. I don't know if they have insects or not. They probably do, but the worst insects come out at night, and that's why I don't stay up that late. But but it's worth, and I appreciated them bringing this up and us having the conversation these past few weeks about mental health, because there's numerous things. Even Dr. Daniel Amen, which we were both watching over the past week, he's you can research him, y'all. Just Dr. Daniel Amen. He does everything revolving the brain, right? But he mentioned something like making sure every night you think about what went well that day, and after 3 weeks, you'll find that you are happier. And just being intentional about that question. What went well? Not like all the stuff I hated about today, but what went well? It's like kind of like a gratitude journal, but sometimes you could get bored, because I know I've done this before. I had a regular practice of a gratitude journal, but then you find yourself writing the same things down every day, and it's like, oh, this is just another thing on my to-do list to do. It's not doing anything for me. But that the what went well thing, I'd like, yes, I'm put that on my calendar.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
I love the gratitude journal. I mean, my gratitude starts from I wake up in the morning by thanking God. And I think if you get up with that attitude, even if something go wrong during the day, and I always say this to you, just say to yourself, this too shall pass. Mm-hmm. Yes. And one thing about depression and anxiety, and they were saying it, they did a study on it, they found out that since the pandemic, you have more people suffering with anxiety now than before. And even people who have had the COVID, had the virus, they develop depression. So they might have to people have to be more encouraged now not to keep that thing to themselves, but go get help, get therapy.
Yeah. And a big thing is being in community with other people. Like,
yes,
this is, I think, one of the big pieces with like when I tapped in with Agape, because I would regularly watch the service online, but what I did differently was I joined like a program. So I'm in community, and we had an accountability partner where every week, and I think you remember too, because I was there the November or something that year, And I was like, oh, I got to take this call. That was my accountability partner calling me. And there's
Right.
something we're supposed to say to each other, like super positive thing. Like I can't remember what it was. But it's like every Sunday at this time, this is what we're doing. And we had small groups, we had things we had to read, come back and talk about. So it was very almost like a Bible study, but we weren't
Right.
reading the Bible. We were reading about mystics, right?
Yeah.
Spiritual mystics. Howard Thurman was one of them, and some other people even prior to him. But that community piece, like you're with other people vibing on the same frequency as you, and it helps a lot. This is where community, I find, is like it's that food that nourishes the soul if it's the
Yes.
right community.
Because we pull strength from each other.
Yeah.
We build each other up, you know? You don't want to be around negative people, because you might come there with an issue. I might come with an issue, but you might be a little stronger than I am. So your strength build the other person, and that person will get stronger and build the next person. And that's what community is about. To build each other.
Yes. Yes. So we started this conversation really talking about salt addiction
Right.
and how, dropping the stress was really critical for this guy Chris Lynn in reversing hypertension. And so this is where it's like it's not an overnight situation, because I don't know that stress can be released that fast depending on where the stress is coming from.
But stress, it's not that it released that fast, but stress is like a dripping water in the bucket. And it reached a certain point where when you see somebody start to explore because they're stressful, it's something that's been going on for a while. It's not something that just started. So we
Yeah.
had the pandemic in 2020. And we're going into 2023 in a couple of months. And the virus is not gone. It is not gone. I know a lot of people is out there hanging out, doing stuff, meeting together in groups and stuff, but the virus is still there, and people are not doing much to protect themselves. And as far as I'm concerned, if they take care of their body, mind, and spirit, you can help even fight the virus. But you have to take care of yourself. You have to be aware that the virus is still out there. And the virus causes depression. It causes anxiety. Sometimes just thinking about the viruses out there makes some people anxious,
Yeah.
which is very bad.
And I will say I don't have a link ready for this, but when it comes to the virus, a big thing is having a strong immune system. So getting Fiber Fueled and Fiber Fueled Cookbook by Dr. Will Bulshewitz, who we talk about every week, and making sure you are eating clean, you are moving your body every day. All the things that we just put up regarding reversing hypertension, this is what you do for a strong immune system.
Yes, because that's another thing can cause depression and anxiety. Not moving your bowels.
Yeah, and not moving your body. Exercise is known, I know for me personally, that's the biggest thing for my mood, is exercise.
Yeah,
and the two doctors from the Slave Food Project, they reiterated that. I wrote down from my notes, when you get upset, go exercise. And
go dance.
this is it, literally, leave the stressful place and do something. For me, it is anything where I'm punching, kicking, doing kickbox. I need to release that fire.
But they mentioned that yesterday too, on that live talk about dancing. Okay, so you can't do the long walk, do the long dance. Some people do what you love. You like to dance, because that's what I do. I've turned on my music and I start to dance.
Yeah.
And that's a form of exercise. I dance until I start to sweat. Let those toxins come out of my body,
Yeah. For the hypertension thing. So for salt, before we go into this article that I have queued up from Cleveland Clinic, salt. So one of my things, other than coconut aminos, which I like, do you use coconut aminos, Ma? Because you
Not
don't like salty
much.
stuff.
Not much.
Oh, okay. I use it a lot, but this is really my salt substitute. And I was telling you before, I think I told you about this. I get this from Thrive Market. And I think I told you before that it's not that salty, but I wasn't using enough because I was using it like salt where I would just put a little. But this, you want to put a lot of it. And the ingredients are, I'm going to show you, sesame seeds, sea salt, and sea vegetables.
Right. And it says sea salt.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
isn't
Eden
that
sea
something-
salt. So it
isn't that
does have
something
salt.
You could make yourself though.
With the dulse and the nori. So the dulse and the nori, if you can see, it's like shredded and
Right.
already, but it's, I would say the emphasis here is on the first ingredient because there's, when I put it on my dishes, it's mostly the seeds,
Sesame seed.
which is
Okay,
very
because
great
I'm
for
looking,
women.
I'm looking at that, and that is something that you normally could do yourself. You said that have nori leaf in it?
Yeah.
Oh, but that's salty.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, it's mostly the sesame seeds. And I'm just gonna drop a link in here if any of you are interested in getting
I could
$40
make that seasoning
off.
myself.
Huh? Yeah, you
I
could do
could make
everything.
that myself.
Thrive Market. So I'm gonna drop a link in the chat box where you could get $40 off your next order if it's your first time purchasing from them if you want this. But I just put a lot of this on sesame seed and sea salt and on top of my stuff, and it gives it a nice like salty
You know, I'm
flavor
salt
without it
sensitive.
being
I don't know
too
if you
salty.
know that, Sam.
You will love this. It's
No, I
not too
say I'm
salty.
salt sensitive. I don't like to put salt in my food, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to showcase this article by the Cleveland Clinic. They talk about 6 reasons why you're craving salt, but I wanted to just start here about like why is salt so bad. So for you, Ma, in particular, you cut salt out. I know there was a whole campaign against salt back in the day, and you've always been into health, right? So the first time you cut salt out, like why did you cut salt out? Because there was a time you ate salt.
Well, don't get me wrong that I cut it out. I still use salt because I find that some of the seasoning that I use it have salt, but I use a lot of celery in my cooking.
Yeah.
And because I use the celery, it's a salt by itself. It's a salty vegetable. So because you use that, you don't have to add salt to your food. You might add a little salt, you know, because I'm not really preparing food for myself a lot. But whoever gonna have my food, they have to add their salt to it. Because I'm not gonna eat stuff I know that's not good for me.
So why do you stay away from salt?
Why do I stay away from salt? The taste of it.
Oh, you just don't
just
like the
can't-
taste.
I just don't like the taste of salt, salty stuff.
Interesting.
I used to love sugar, and I don't like sweet stuff anymore. So salt and sugar is something that I can do without.
Because the
Because I
palate
find that
changes.
salt is in everything. Sometimes even when I drink the water, it tastes salty.
Yeah, this thing that's happening to you only happens to people when they cut out salt. It's the same thing I hear from Chef AJ. She's very salt sensitive, but she used to have salt, right? But if you cut salt out completely, then you're gonna be very sensitive to it. Just a little bit, you're gonna feel it.
I come to find out, I don't know, and probably folks listening right now probably can relate to that. They said, if you don't have salt in your diet, you get a lot of muscle contraction. I do get that in the winter time. I get a lot of muscle contraction. So in the winter time, what I usually do, I do a lot of soup. So I'll just add a little bit more salt to my soup. But I just don't like salty stuff. I just can't take anything that's salty. It kills my taste.
Well, Cleveland Clinic says too much salt can damage the blood vessels, can affect the heart. It increases the risk for an enlarged heart, which is a sign of heart disease. The kidneys don't function as well because they're working harder. And the brain, which is major, the blood doesn't get to the brain as it should, which can lead to thinking and memory problems. And of course, we want to avoid Alzheimer's and dementia as we age. So that's pretty critical. 6 reasons you're craving salt. So this I thought was interesting. Stress is number 1. Stress is number 1. So I'm like, oh, this is why.
Okay.
But I'm not craving salt anymore, but that's because of the habit changes. I don't crave it. I do use, but I would say that one of the speakers we have at the summit. So for those who don't know, the Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit is airing for free viewing again, October 28th through October 30th. And you want to register now to get your tickets. I'm going to try to pull up the link here so you could just click on the link in the chat so you could register. But one of our speakers we have at the summit, her name is Ama Opare. So if you attended the summit last year, she's a new speaker for this year. And she has this great recipe book with mostly raw recipes in here. And I'm going to swap out because I think my headphones are going to die. But her book is called, I'm going to tell you in a second. Her book is called Food for the Soul from Ama's Kitchen. Again, Ama Opare. And so a lot of her seasons, like right now, her pasta fresca dish, right? I haven't made the actual dish, but the dressing that she uses, I used to season my vegetables, my salads, my quinoa, my beans. That's the seasoning I've been using this past week. And it calls for 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos, which I've been using 1, depending on how much I have going on. If it's a whole pot of stuff, then I'm doing 2 tablespoons, but usually just 1. It calls for a 1/3 cup of olive oil, which I feel like is too much. So I just do a tablespoon because I'm like I kind of scale back. But again, I have a history of acid reflux, so I try not to go hard on the oil. And a tablespoon apple cider vinegar. And then she has a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, which I really just eyeball that and just shake it out. I don't really measure that. And red pepper flakes. For the red pepper flakes, I use cayenne pepper. So this has been my seasoning.
What were you making?
Literally everything I make. Everything I make.
Because sometimes you could use applesauce in some of your recipe instead of oil.
Depending on what it is. I mean, I wouldn't.
That's why I said, what were you making?
I'm saying my beans. I seasoned my beans with it. My quinoa with it. I had black rice this week. I seasoned that with it. My salad. Everything
Sam, your salad, you could put applesauce instead of the oil.
Yeah, I don't make applesauce, but that's an interesting.
It's very easy. You peel the apple and put it in a smoothie cup and make a sauce out of it. That's how I do it.
But for me, I just skip the oil too, because I add I've been adding to sun-dried tomatoes, which I love, and it's in oil already because I get it from Thrive Market. It's in oil, so I get a little bit of oil from that anyway. So I'll just, because there's a little coming in from that, I just don't even add it. And a lot of times you don't have to add it. I just mentioned it because she has it in her recipe. But the only reason I bring this up is because her recipes are delicious. Her dressings, her spice combinations are delicious, right? And so this is how I've been eating the past week. And because it has the coconut aminos in there, and it's already like enough salt flavor where it's like augmented and really pleasurable. But if I need more, I just add this to it. So I don't I'm not craving salt like, oh, I need to have like this packaged stuff to get more salt in my mouth because it's in my food and I just eat whole meals. If I need a snack, I'm having the sprouted almonds, which have nothing on them. It's just sprouted almonds, and they taste so delicious. Mom, when I come to New York, I'm gonna bring you a bag. It is good. I be eating it the way you eat almonds, which I couldn't do it before because it would hurt me. I would get pain in my chest from the almonds. But sprouted almonds, I have no discomfort at all, and I can eat as many as I want without any discomfort. So it's so good. So I don't know if the almonds itself kind of has a natural mineral or something in there, but I don't have the craving for salt like I used to because I'm eating the way I'm eating.
Right,
But the
yeah.
stress situation could be better. Because it's like I know I have come up with a whole secret sauce on how to manage stress, but God is doing a good job of putting me in environments to expose me to a different version of stress so I can learn some new modalities, apparently.
Yeah.
Some new tools to deal with people.
Yeah, because life can be stressful.
Yes, and specifically certain types of people. Certain types of people, and and this world, this country, it's quite interesting.
Job can be stressful.
Yeah, work, just dynamics, like things. Another thing, so this list, 6 reasons you're craving salt, lack of sleep, which we know you and I, we don't really have this problem, but I mean, I don't think
Lately I have, but it doesn't cause from stress. I think it causes from your hormones, the hormones change in your body, hormone changes. Because I'll go to bed and I'll sleep 5 hours. I get up and I go to the bathroom, go back to bed. I can't sleep anymore. And there's a lot of people out there can relate to this. But it don't have anything to do with me with stress, because when I get up, and I don't know if your brain work like that or the people brain do that, my brain turn on. My brain don't stay off. It just flip on. It's like a light switch. And it's rolling all over the place. So I can't sleep. So I don't know how to switch it back off,
Well, what I do that really works for me is if
I
I'm
get up
laying
and I read.
if I'm laying down and my brain is going a mile a minute about stuff, I have a little notebook with a pen near my bed, and I write all that stuff down to get it out my head.
What were your brain going off with? Oh man, those are things that you don't even want to write down because they pass and gone.
You write it down. You write it down so it could leave your head and go onto the paper.
But what I do sometimes, I'll turn the music on and listen to some nice gospel music, very low, and or some meditative music, or I'll just get up and read. But once I start to do that, I read until daybreak, from 2 in the morning till daybreak. So I find that going to bed too early now does not help me. I have to go by a certain time that I can get.
Yes, and I experimented with this. So for those who are the lion chronotype like ours, I don't. So it depends really on the day, right? If I had a really exhausting day, I need time to decompress, and so like between 8 and 10 o'clock, I'm showering off the day, and then I'm just laying on my back, just like trying to get from this high state where my nervous system is highly engaged to like this just rest relaxation state. And then I fall asleep, and I'm waking up 5, 6, 7, depending on the time I fall asleep. My sweet spot is 7.5 hours, but I've even done 6, and it's been fine, because when I sleep, I'm like, I drop right into REM. I don't really have
I don't think when you get
problems.
older you need a lot of sleep. I think younger people need a lot of sleep.
They
Uh,
say I don't know, like I can't remember exactly, but I feel like it is consistent. It's just that older folks choose not to. They just choose not
well,
to, and there's nothing to rush to, so it doesn't, they don't
because you
have a
can
problem with
nap
it.
in the days, though. You could take a nap in the day, which is good. Sam, recognize that one person who is listening, please.
Oh, hi, one person who's listening. You
Or
could type
viewing.
in the chat or viewing. Thanks for joining us live. You could type hello in the chat. So we're just talking about the what the Cleveland Clinic says, the 6 reasons you're craving salt. So the stress, the sleep. We've talked already on the show about how to try to get into a place of sleep, by kind of relaxing yourself and doing what works. For me, it's having these books. So like this, I'll have a book like this or some other book, to get into sleep. I don't have any lights on, past 8 o'clock. I'm turning off lights. So my whole brain, eyes, everything, that's it's understanding it is now time to get into sleep state.
Hmm.
PMS can cause those cravings, which eating more raw helps with this to get the hormonal balance straight.
Fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, and specifically those leafy greens. Like this is
Oh,
the
yeah.
part, like the greens, the greens, the
The
greens.
greens.
And
They
I would
stressed on that
say
yesterday in that live. Yeah. The greens.
beets too. Beets, so you have iron. And iron is also the beets are really great for the brain as well because you're oxygenating the blood cells, which is going up to the brain. So beets, beets, beets. And exercise.
Hmm.
If you're not, they're saying the more you exercise, the more you sweat. So too much sweating can reduce sodium levels. So your body responds by needing more salt.
So if you sweat too much, you'll crave more salt. I tell you something, if you sweat too much, just drink more water.
Water, so sweating is just regulating your body temperature. Water, if you drink water, it just means your body has the water to sweat. Because some
And I
people,
think sweating is good though. Sweating is good because it detoxes the largest organ of the body, which I think it's wonderful to sweat. I just feel bad for people who don't sweat.
some people don't sweat because they are dehydrated. If the body has no water to cool you down, you won't sweat. So you'll get hot, you won't sweat because your body's dehydrated. But this part's interesting if you're an active person. And so I say that's why I'm not really an advocate for necessarily. I've experimented with cutting out salt completely, and I think if you have hypertension, doing like what this guy did to completely cut out sodium, understanding it's for
Hmm.
the interim. It's just like and like when we talk about food intolerances. So for me personally, I find out that I have a histamine intolerance. There's certain foods I'm not eating right now. Those foods are very healthy foods. It's not that I will never eat them again. It's just right now I'm not eating them right now because my body can't even utilize it properly, right? It's not able to absorb the nutrients from these foods properly. That's why I'm having food intolerance. That's what food intolerance is. And so it's the same thing with the salt. If you have hypertension, that salt is not helping you. you
Hmm.
know? But
Which is true.
if you don't have hypertension, getting salt from like what you do from the celery, the sodium from the celery, using sea salt, but using it on your dish, the food, not when you're cooking or preparing, but like your dish you're about to eat. So you're only using just enough for you to consume right now. Because what I noticed from years ago when we had the store, you could put salt in food and it sits in the fridge. You take it out, you don't even taste it anymore. It's like it disappears in the fridge. Something about the
Mm.
fridge, I don't know. But like you want to just, cause so then you end up using more if you're adding it in your original prep and it's sitting and then you have to add it again. So just add it to your meal when you're sitting to eat or having something like, you know, something like this where it's the seaweed or something, so you're getting the salty flavor from a natural source.
Right. That's why processed food is not good because it's really too much salt.
Yeah. Yeah. And boredom is the last thing. I know I overate a lot in the past because of boredom. Just because I could, there was nothing else to do. I needed something to do with my mouth. So I'm just snacking. But now I have the sprouted almonds. So it works out great.
How could you get bored though? You're so busy. I can't see you get bored or people busy like you get bored.
What does
How,
boredom mean to you?
mean that there's nothing to do, so you're bored. Or you're
Let's
tired
see.
of doing what you're doing, so you get bored.
That's it.
Oh,
That's it, right?
I've
So
never been there.
because you are of a privileged group, Ma. That's what I keep telling you all the time. I'm just playing around actually because I don't think that in your life you've
I
never
was
had
never
to
privileged,
do.
Sam.
I don't think you've never had to do things you didn't really want to do.
Are you serious?
That's what I'm saying. So you
Okay,
must
back
know
up.
boredom.
That will be another talk.
That's what I'm saying. You must know boredom.
The generation that I'm born in, we had to do things we didn't want to do, but we have to do it. I was never a privileged child, Sam.
So you know boredom.
I couldn't be bored because see, it's different the way your generation look at it than what we look at it. We never get time to be bored because we always have something we have to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, you had a physical job, so I'm not sure where you would have.
I couldn't be bored.
But I couldn't imagine. I've never had the life like you did, where
Right.
where I had
Okay,
to
well, you
be.
never have my kind of job because in my kind of job, I couldn't be bored. There's always something to do. And when I come home at night, I can't be bored falling asleep because I fall asleep. I don't have time to think of anything. I just go to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, so even with Raw Food Meal Planner, I love doing this, like these weekly talks and things like this. The summit, I like putting on the summit. There are aspects of the summit that are boring to me, that are administrative, things like the tech part, things I've done a million times, emails I have to put together. I don't enjoy, I get bored doing that, but it has to be done. And you could say overall, I like overall, but there are aspects of the job that is boring. It lack interest. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to figure out how could I define boredom in my life, but it's hard. I'd have to search it.
I have the definition here. They even have the thesaurus: weariness, lack of enthusiasm, lack of interest, lack of concern, apathy, uninterestedness, unconcerned,
Okay, yeah.
sluggishness.
Well, I get bored. I get bored if I'm around people in a conversation and it's very negative. That's where boredom come down with me. But other than that, I'm not a bored. I don't get bored. I get bored around negative people with negative conversation and it's not getting anywhere. Have you ever been in a situation like that?
Yeah, so you know boredom. So you know boredom.
But-
I'm glad we could come
but-
to this understanding.
But I have a choice to walk away.
Yeah. But sometimes you don't have a choice. If I walked away from all the things I felt bored doing, we
you'd
wouldn't
be in
even be
trouble.
on this episode right now.
No, no, you'd
This-
be in
this
trouble.
show
That's
would not
different.
exist.
So I'm only explaining my experience with boredom. Yeah, I just get bored when I sit around, and with anyone, and they have a conversation, and it's very negative. Like you don't feel anything positive coming from it. That bore me. It's like
Yeah.
it bore me, and like a spear going through me. That's how I feel.
Oh, hey, Danny. It's Danny that's joining us. Thank you so much for joining us, Danny. I would love to know from you in the chat if you ever struggled with a salt addiction and how were you able to overcome it. Maybe you can drop some of your own tips in the chat.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah.
Yes, baby. But
So one of the things I wanted to mention too with this product that I didn't get to mention about sesame seeds, which I said is the main ingredient. You see it, right?
yeah.
Sesame seeds are rich in protein, which we know, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. So not only are you getting the salty flavor, but you're also getting nutrients.
Oh, sesame seed. Okay, sesame. Okay.
It's sesame seeds interspersed with, sea salt and vegetables, but the majority of it, you see all that white is all sesame seeds.
And I
Or
see the black too. What's the
tan.
black? The seaweed?
That's the seaweed. It has a
I'm
darker
gonna
color.
mix up that thing today. I'm gonna make it today. I have my little bottle.
Okay. Okay.
Not that I wouldn't order it, because I order it in order to get the recipe.
Order it. Oh, yeah, here's the recipe. I'll put it right back on.
Okay.
Here it is.
Okay, I'll take a picture of it when we finish.
You gonna show us next week how you mixed it? First of all, good luck trying to find kombu. I finally got kombu from Thrive Market. When I went to Whole Foods, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it anywhere near here, but I was able to get it from Thrive Market. And I made my pinto beans this week in the pressure cooker with kombu in it because I wasn't able to soak it overnight. But they say if you cook the kombu with the beans, it takes the gas away, basically. Like the stuff
Oh,
that would
really?
give you gas, it takes care
Oh.
of that.
Okay. After the live, Sam, can you hold that up? Let me take a picture of
So
the
this
ingredients.
is gonna be on YouTube forever. So yeah, you could go back and take a screenshot. Danny said he can't remember struggling with salt. Very good, very good. That's nice.
No,
to
you
hear.
can look at Danny's skin and tell you Danny never struggled with those things.
Yes. Well, I think it's also genetic because
And
Dad has beautiful
he's not
skin
a
as
person who
well.
likes sweets either. Like, when I say like sweet, he's not a sugar person. Like, he drink his drink just the way you give it to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that comes with practice of eating a certain way for a while.
He don't put anything in his tea. He drink the tea just like that, water and tea
Danny,
bag.
she got all your business out on the street. we trying to wrap up the show. She got all your
Well,
business.
it's an example for people, and people need to know that yes, you can have your tea without any sugar in there, because sugar is bad, and sugar is what causes your waistline to be big.
Yes. Well, Danny, thanks for joining us live. For all of you watching the replay, put in the comments #replay. Let us know if you ever dealt with a salt addiction and how you've been able to overcome it. And I would say with everything we've talked about today, try it for 3 weeks, right? Especially like with the list from that guy on how he was able to reverse his hypertension. Try those things for 3 weeks and see what happens to your blood pressure. You really have nothing to lose. You really have nothing to lose. You feel free to talk to your doctor about it, but literally, I don't see a doctor not endorsing it. I really
You'll
don't.
be surprised.
I
You'll be
really don't.
surprised.
I mean, his list was like, there's nothing. Do more cardio, remove canned foods, completely cut out sodium, and it's for 3 weeks. So, and then stress management, right? I couldn't imagine a doctor saying no to anyone.
Where is that retreat?
The retreat? Oh. Well, I don't know, but y'all definitely make a retreat out of the Raw Food Health Empowerment Summit we have coming up. Register. Yes. The link I put the link in the chat, but I will drop it in there again. Go to rawfoodhealthempowermentsummit.com, and it's a 3-day free summit. So treat it like a retreat for yourself. Just clear off your calendar, do nothing else but just be basked in inspiration, motivation, and tap into free recipes, meal plans, and different things being offered by the speakers, because you'll definitely love it, especially if you're trying to eat healthier. and have a healthier lifestyle, and turn your passion into a career, because there is a need out here for folks who have nutrition knowledge, especially in the plant-based nutrition space, to help usher us in to this new era. Not only because of the health issues that have been going on, but the White House right now, like 2 weeks ago, I believe it's been, the White House is putting money behind plant-based nutrition for the medical establishment, for community development orgs, and different initiatives and programs happening, because this is the new thing for health reasons, for environmental reasons. It just has to happen, right? So now is the time. Now is the time. So we will be back tomorrow. I will be back with Khadidra, right? She's going to be showing us how to grow goldenrod, the herb. So that should be quite interesting, since I have never grown goldenrod, but I've seen it and it looks beautiful.
Okay, so what time tomorrow is?
At 1 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you.
Okay.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, click the notification bell so you get notified every time we go live or drop a video, and share this video with a friend if you feel like they may need some help with their hypertension or their salt addiction. Share it with them. It might be helpful. All right, Ma.
All right, love.
See you next week.
All right, everyone. Have a good day.
Ta-ta.
Bye.